do your very best not to compare your journey to someone else's journey, because each of our journeys are different. Find what you care about. I think sometimes as immigrants, we want to be successful and we only have a narrow definition of success. There's a difference between being proud and having confidence and being arrogant. Let's raise our children to be confident and not arrogant. Let's raise our children to know that they are not better than anybody, but they are amazing, that they are beautiful, and who they are matters, and that they don't have to assimilate to be successful in America.
Welcome to Afrisota, a place where every story aspires to inspire. Today we shine a spotlight on a groundbreaking leader all the way from Somalia, making waves in the heart of Minnesota. She is the first of its kind, breaking all barriers and steering the helm at Gideon Pond Elementary School with unwavering dedication and innovative leadership. Her journey is one of resilience, inspiration, empowerment, and landmark achievements, paving the way for a new era of inclusivity and multicultural education. Under her leadership, Gideon Pond stands as a beacon of hope, fostering an environment where every student is celebrated for who they are and where diversity is not just recognized but embraced. Join us as we delve into her story, exploring the profound impact of her work in Minnesota and beyond, and how she's helping to build a community where everyone belongs and thrives. Don't miss a second of this captivating and inspiring story with a true change maker right here on Afrisota Digital. Thank you so much, first of all, for giving us this time, and thank you for your kindness and generosity to share your story. Please tell our viewers who you are, tell our viewers what they need to know about you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. My name is Salma Hussein. I am an elementary principal in the city of Burnsville at Gideon Pond Elementary. What I want viewers to know, first and foremost, is that I am a mother to two beautiful children, a 6-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. I am in Minnesota by way of Somalia. So the village that I come from is in Somalia. And I just appreciate this opportunity to share my story. And through that sharing of my story, I hope that the viewer is able to create time for themselves to share their own story as well too, because my story is my story and we each have a story, and sometimes we try to find inspiration from other people's stories, and that's important. And I know that if we can slow down, we can also find inspirations in our own individual stories as well.
Thank you very much. We'll start with your early life. Please tell us a little bit more about your life in Somalia and what really inspired you to take such a huge venture in education.
Yes, so my story begins in Mogadishu, Somalia, the capital of Somalia. My mom and dad did well in Somalia, and shortly after I was born, the civil war broke out in Somalia, and that led us to flee to neighboring Kenya, where we sought until we could get sponsorship through my cousin to come to America. When we came to America, we started from the bottom and made our way up, as Drake would say, but we knew that education was the pathway to being successful in America. And for me, education has allowed me to learn about myself, to learn about my community, to understand that the challenges that different communities experience is not because people are not working hard enough. It's because of policy and systems. So education has really helped me love myself more. It has given me freedom and liberation. And it is through education that I decided that I wanted to become a principal. When I grew up in Minnesota, in Minneapolis in particular, I did not have leaders who looked like me. And because of that lack of representation, I graduated from school, even college and my master's degree, feeling like success was not for me. So my confidence was really low because even though I was working really hard and by everyone's measure I was successful, I didn't feel successful. So I decided that I wanted to be the change that I needed as a student growing up. So now children get to see a principal who looks like me, and it communicates to them that success is for them as well, and that leadership isn't just for a certain community, that we are all leaders, and that we can lead buildings and lead all communities, not just the communities that we come from.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned that you had your early childhood in Somalia and then moved to Kenya. Moving from Somali to Kenya is kind of, you're moving still within the continent and to a neighboring country. But taking that journey to the United States is somehow different, and I think it was a monumental one for you. How did your early childhood shape that journey for you, and what are some of the things that you can share taking that journey to the United States and still focusing on education?
Definitely. I remember when we were coming to America, we were in the airplane, and before getting on the airplane, we had orientation. And in that orientation, and just in my family conversation, we talked about what alcohol looked like. So I remember vividly being on the airplane and being offered apple juice, but refusing the apple juice because in Somalia, I don't recall having apple juice. So it looked at like alcohol. So I remember saying no. So that was a cultural shock. One of the first ones that we had. And then when we arrived in North Carolina, that's where my cousin was who sponsored us. I remember getting on the escalator and my dress getting stuck on the escalator, and that was really frightening. I also remember my cousin's husband just letting us know, you're now in America, you are free, you can change your dress into a pair of jeans. And I literally took his advice. The very next day, I switched my dress, given that horrific incident on the escalator, to a pair of jeans. But one of the things that really has helped me as I get older is knowing that who I am and where I come from makes me successful. That the American dream isn't abandoning who you are, abandoning your culture. It really is, for me and for many of us, being proud of who you are, understanding the struggles and experiences that you have had, and knowing that those experiences do not make you less than. It makes you strong, and it builds that resilience and in that confidence. In the Somali culture, we call it kalsoni. I feel like I have grown in my confidence since I started to love who I am and love all parts of my story.
Interesting. And I suppose that before you left Somalia, you were already in school, and the way of education in Somalia is definitely not the same kind of system here in the United States. How was that transitioning for you? What were some of the challenges that you faced transitioning from the system of education that you were used to a totally new system of education? How was that for you?
When I came, when I was in Somalia, I don't really recall going to school. I recall going to Duxi. And when I came to Minnesota, I started in the second grade. But I think what was different for me is not knowing the language. That was a challenge. Also not seeing people that look like me. That was another challenge too, knowing that I was different. So that made things hard, but there was a lot of support, and that support helped me learn English watching television. I know there's a lot of different messages about how much TV children should watch. And I know when I came to America, that TPT, the public television channel, helped me learn English, watching Arthur and Barney and Clifford, the big red dog. All of those things helped me learn English. And then, of course, my teachers who saw me and allowed me to learn at the pace that I needed to learn. But it was just different. It was different for my mom and dad. They value education, but they did not go through the formal education process. So we all learned together as each day passed.
So when you transitioned, of course, to the United States system, did you always have the ambition to become a teacher? And not just to become a teacher, did you always have the ambition that someday you could become the principal of an elementary school?
I did not, quite honestly, and my way of becoming a principal is non-traditional. So my background is actually in school social work. So I was never a classroom teacher, but I have been a school social worker. And I went into school social work because I really believe in creating a very just society, a society where we don't have haves and the have-nots, but that everybody has what they need to be successful. So I went into social work and worked as a school social worker for a number of years. And it was through that experience that I realized that I wanted to have more influence on the system to help change the policies, to help prioritize and put funding behind interpreting, for instance, for families, hiring bilingual staff, being the person who made the decision. So as a school social worker, I had my social work licensure, teaching licensure, which gave me an opportunity to pursue my K-12 principal licensure. And I became a principal because I really want to help put resources in areas that are needed to help support all of our families, especially our families who English may not be their first language, making sure that they know that school is for them and that mom and dad do not need to know English or have a college degree to support the success of their child.
So, as a leader, you don't just lead a school. You lead a community. A community could be a community of students, could be a community of teachers. You know, you are a principal of that school. And every leader, one thing I've come to know is every leader has their leadership philosophy. What would your leadership philosophy be for you, and how has this been influenced by your story, by your journey?
Definitely. I'm very fortunate to lead what I consider to be the best elementary school in the state of Minnesota, Gideon Pond Elementary. My leadership philosophy is one where every single person belongs, where every single person has a champion who believes in them, and where every single person is able to become the best versions of themselves. So I am very fortunate to work with a group of teachers and support staff and parents and students and a greater district who all believe in that mission. And in our district, we really strive to make sure that every single student is future ready and has a supportive, also has a supportive community. We call it each student future ready, community strong. Being who I am successful because of my community. So I'm very fortunate to work for a district that also believes in community and not just if you work hard by yourself, you get to be successful. There's a belief that we work hard together and we can be successful. So in my leadership, I do my very best to cultivate a community where everybody knows that they matter and that all cultures matter and that one culture isn't a priority over the other. And most importantly, for me as a Muslim, Somali, African woman, it's important for the students to know that I'm not just a Somali principal. I am their principal. There's only one principal at Gideon Pond Elementary. I don't just lead the Somali students. I lead all of the students. At our school, we have diversity and we have many different cultures. And it's been life-giving to see the little Somali girls in their hijabs who see me and call me auntie, and now they have this image and this understanding that they too can someday be a principal. And it's also encouraging for the white little girl who sees me being who I am and being proud to say, Miss Salma is my principal. So it really is changing the experience of the future generation and allowing them to see a different set of experiences and role models, and knowing that all means all, not just some.
So I'm personally moved, and I'm sure the viewers are moved by your story and exactly the way you put the sense out there. In my previous interviews with other people, they tell me that navigating the system is quite a challenge. And they say there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of discrimination, there's a lot of discrepancy. So when you finished your school in the United States, just walk us through that journey of you were an assistant principal before now. So walk us through that journey of how you stepped at the door and until you became the principal of Gideon Pond.
Yeah, everything that you said is very true. In America, it's not enough to work hard. You have to work hard and also know the right people. And I also, as a person of faith, I really believe that God is my guide. So for me, my journey started in Minneapolis, where I was a school social worker. And when I obtained my degree as a principal, I had every goal to be an administrator in Minneapolis, but God did not have that plan for me. Some people might call it discrimination, but as a person of faith, I just believe that in my story, God had a different plan. And because of my lived experience and migrating to America, I, like many Africans, we are very resilient. We go where the opportunity is. So I was able to network and find an opportunity in St. Paul, Minnesota, where at Central High School, which is the oldest high school in the state of Minnesota, the first high school in the state of Minnesota. And I was able to be an assistant principal for many different types of students. And when I was at Central, I do believe that I was able to make a difference. And I was ready to step into the principalship. And again, because of my resilient African background, I was able to be open to opportunities. So I was in Minneapolis, went to St. Paul to become an assistant principal. And after 2 years of being an assistant principal, the opportunity to come to Burnsville opened up. And I did not really believe that it would work out because all of my past experience has been working in high school. So when Gideon Pond opened up, I have a dear friend. His name is Saeed Garad. He's another African incredible educator. And Saeed had shared with me his dream was to be an elementary principal. And as many Africans, we like to connect our friends to great opportunities. So I talked to my friend Saeed and I said, hey, your dream is to be an elementary principal. There's this amazing school that I found on the internet, and there's all of those positive things about the school. You should apply. God had a different plan for Saeed, and one of the people who was connected to that school and I had connected on the internet, and this person kept calling me, encouraging me to apply to be the principal of the school. So I said, you know what? Allah will decide whether or not this will be for me. So I applied. They invited me for the interview. I went, I interviewed, and I remember just being myself. I didn't have to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. I talked about community. I talked about respecting teachers and staff and families and students. And then it was several different rounds. And in my district, they have a community panel where it was me and the other applicants that were applying for the same job. And there were people that were from the district But as Africans, again, we are oral community. So when other people were answering the question, I went back to my African roots and I was nodding my head and getting ideas from what they were saying. Long story short, I ended up becoming the principal. And again, I never thought that I would be in Burnsville, but as Africans, we are very resilient and we go where opportunities are. So I just stayed committed to my mission of inspiring and being the change that I want to see in education, and then going where the opportunity is.
Gideon Pond. I checked Gideon Pond online, and that elementary school has about 40% Somali students.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct?
You're correct.
And at least maybe at the time when the information was put up, about 40% Somali students. And do you think it was right, or it was the right time that they get a principal who looks like them? And how has this changed, or how has this helped some of the Somali kids in that school to embrace, I don't want to say embrace education, because education is not something foreign to us Africans. But how has their attitude in school been? How have they seen you as a beacon of hope and, of course, inspiration to them in their educational journey?
It really has been a beautiful journey. The children are very kind. And I believe that for the children at Gideon Pond, especially our Somali students, it's been helpful for them to see someone who looks like their mom and their aunt and their sister, and for the young ladies themselves in leadership as the boss of the whole school, as the kids would say. So, and also I believe it's been really incredible for the parents, because I'm a parent. My own 2 children go to Gideon Pond Elementary, and I let the parents know that they don't have to speak English in order to engage. So we have many parents who come to the school with limited English, who volunteer in the cafeteria. They come to PTO meetings. They have lunch with their children. We have been able to communicate to families that Gideon Pond is their school and that they can be involved at any level. So for the students, we have really created a culture that I hope helps them know that who they are is beautiful and they don't have to assimilate. We have brought in these affirmation cards that are in Somali and English that every single teacher has in their classroom. And the teachers during morning meetings, they read the affirmation cards. It's in English and Somali, which again creates pride in our students because they see their white teacher attempting to read Somali. So when the children are, learning to read, they see that their teachers are making an effort to read Somali as well. So it really has been beautiful for me, for the children, for the parents, for the community, to just help people know that work hard and know that leadership isn't just one community, that we too can be leaders and are leaders, and that the school is our school and we're not guests in this school.
Wow. And of course, 60% are not Somali.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been for them and for you dealing with completely different cultures? Like 60% of the students in your school could come from any background, and it's not necessary that they are all white kids, but they could come from backgrounds that are very, very foreign from Somali background. How do you maneuver that?
You don't know. I maneuver it through love. At our school this year, when we started, we had shirts for each of our staff that said Gideon Pond leads with love. I too believe that I lead with love too. So for all of my kids, whether you're Somali, you're African American, you're Hmong, you are Native American, you are going to get the same love from me. So I strive to get to know my students, to get to know my families, to let them know that what I do for the Somali kids, I will do for all of the kids. And just being able to build that trust and making sure that my actions match what I say has been really important.
And I do believe that you go beyond the gates of school.
Mm-hmm.
You go beyond the gates of school, and especially in a state which is very diverse like Minnesota. What, for instance, would you say in terms of building those bridges? In terms of building those bridges and fostering a sense of belonging, not just in the school, but in the community where you live.
Is that question can you break that down for me just a little bit?
So, for instance, you are the principal of the school, and for every school, there are kids who come from a family, from a society, from a community. And like you've rightly said, you don't just deal with children, but you deal with their parents. And guess what? These parents come from specific communities or from all over the place. In terms of their relationship with other parents in their communities, in terms of their relationship with you as the principal, in terms of the children's relationship with other children of different cultures in the community, how do you see your role as one that builds bridges, that connects people, not just students and not just the parents, not just the teachers, but how do you see your role as the principal, being a connector of people in the community?
Definitely. I see my role as the principal as someone who brings people together, someone who allows people to know that when we value diversity as a school, which we do at Gideon Pond Elementary, that we will have conflict, and that conflict is not a bad thing. That conflict allows us to seek to understand and get to know one another. So I am a principal who doesn't back down from conflict. I lean into conflict and I bring people together. I use my African background, as I would say, to help bring people together to the table, to have restorative conversations, the children being able to notice similarities, and then creating a school community with my dedicated staff where we celebrate all cultures. So just last year, I had the opportunity to be in a classroom, a second grade classroom, and it was around Easter time, and it was also around Eid. So we had second graders talking about how they were looking forward to Easter, and other second graders who were talking about looking forward to Eid. And all the second graders knew that whether they were celebrating Easter or Eid, there was a place for them at Gideon Pond Elementary, and that all are welcomed and that one isn't better than the other. Just teaching our students that we are a community, and by we meaning all, and then being able to share that same message with our families, the parents, letting them know that we are a community. And then as staff, we are a community, and continuing to show through actions what that means together.
Wow. And this is a huge impact in the community. That's such a huge impact in the community. In Africa, I grew up knowing that they say the youths of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And when I look at the United States, for instance, for a lot of us who come from Africa, we get culture shock, and some Africans would say that there is too much liberty given to children, and it leads them to all sorts of behaviors, even in schools. I'm not sure what age range your students are, but I've had stories from friends, I've had experiences where students are disrespectful to their teachers, disrespectful to elders, and portray behaviors that are not normal. Like some of them even do drugs as students. Have you had this kind of experience?
I have had those types of experiences. And I do believe that those experiences say a lot about our society and just how there could be more resources to support the children and also to support the families. I do believe that the education system is not always kind to all students. We know that education has not been created for all kids to be successful. And I do believe that when children experience school and school is not a safe place for them, it does show up in behavior. And then there's mental health too. As a society, we could do more to meet the mental health needs of our students, of our staff, of our families. So that way when people come to school, they're coming as their best and they're able to engage in the learning. So when you have unmet needs, it shows up in the things that you mentioned.
So what would you say to parents? First of all, before you answer that, what would you say to parents in general? And what would you say to African parents who are finding it very challenging? A lot of them say they send their children to school, and for sure, their children spend more time in school. And peer pressure becomes an issue, you know. So what would you say to parents in general in terms of bringing up their kids? Parents in general, what would you say to them in terms of parents, teachers, collaboration to helping our kids today?
So my message to all parents is know that you are the first role model for your children. Know that your children do not require you to be perfect. They require you to be present. And as a parent, be that role model. Show your children that you have friends that are from different cultures. Have people over that don't look like you, because if we want our children to be kind to all people, they have to see that in the home. And then for our African parents, I want you to know that you are powerful, that you are the primary decision maker for your children, and that you have power. So when you're engaging with school, show up with confidence. Know that the principal, the teacher, everybody, they work for you and they should work with you. So if you are unsatisfied with something, give them that feedback and then hold them accountable to do better when they know better. So again, as African parents, it is so important that we ask for what we need, that we advocate for our children, that we show up to events that the school is having, whether that's a PTO meeting. Try your best if you're able to have lunch with your children. If your school, the school that your children goes to has a Student of the Month celebration, come to that celebration because other parents are coming. And when your children notices your absence, it may impact their self-esteem and their confidence. So do what you can to be visible, be proud of yourself. There's a difference between being proud and having confidence and being arrogant. Let's raise our children to be confident and not arrogant. Let's raise our children to know that they are not better than anybody, but they are amazing, that they are beautiful, and who they are matters, and that they don't have to assimilate to be successful in America.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Trust me, awesome. I'm learning a lot myself.
Yes.
I will definitely take your advice to heart.
Beautiful.
You are a beacon of hope, not just to Africans who have come here, not just to African immigrants or immigrants as a whole. You are somebody who has done it in no ordinary way. You are somebody who has paved the way and made it known both to Africans and Americans that it's possible. So as a beacon of hope, as a beacon of inspiration, what would you say to our other African brothers and sisters who have come all the way and they're here in America? Maybe they're pursuing something in education. What would you tell them in terms of not losing hope and not losing the focus?
I would tell the person listening to believe in yourself, to believe in your story, to know that you are successful, that where you are right now is not where you will be in the future, to work hard, to find people who believe in you, finding a community. Do your very best not to compare your journey to someone else's journey, because each of our journeys are different. Find what you care about. I think sometimes as immigrants, we want to be successful and we only have a narrow definition of success. And success could be a multitude of things. Find out what your strengths are and pursue those strengths. Ask for help. Take care of yourself and know that who you are matters, and you do not have to assimilate. Again, you don't have to change who you are to be successful. In America, you can be successful by embracing and being exactly who you are.
One last thing.
Okay.
Where do we go from here, Principal Salma? What are your prospects, the future?
Yep.
What does the future hold for you?
The future holds for all of us a world where we don't have any more first, where we have people in all positions, where there is leadership and representation at all levels for all community, where we don't have to talk about representation because representation is the norm. I see the future as a future that includes all of us. I see more of our women and men and children just having more confidence in who we are and knowing that we don't have to change ourselves to fit in, that we belong in America by being who we are, by being proud of our African culture and being proud of our African languages. So having schools that are heritage schools that teach our African languages, I see a future that is very bright, and it includes all of us, and it includes our cultures being celebrated and centered in what is happening and the decisions that are being made, and resources being available to our communities to do the right thing, to support all families, so everybody has what they need to be successful and to be their best.
And there you have it, Principal Salma Hussein. What a journey, what a story. What is your story? What is your journey? This is Afrisota. If this has inspired you, like, subscribe, share, and leave us a comment. Until next time, bye-bye.